I really mean repurposing, because you never know who might need to hear this story. So let me go back to Zoom. So let me share this. As a visibility specialist, I really mean repurposing, because you never mute that. I have been helping people to put themselves out there for 12 years now. I can't believe it's been that long. These people have sometimes been employed professionals. I've worked with people who have been like doctors, lawyers, people who have worked as CEOs of the C-suite, people who have been leaders, people who are aspiring to be leaders, people who are looking to change their career. And I've also at the same time been working with business owners. And those business owners might look like coaches and consultants and mentors. They might look like authors who want to, get their book out there even more. They might be people that are speaking-based businesses. So they will go out and speak in the hope that people will buy their products and services. All sorts of people, all sorts of different people. And one of the things that has been definitely, I've been hearing a lot more, I would say even pre-pandemic, are people who are saying things like this. I'm just going to literally kind of read some of the things that have been coming up for people when it comes to putting themselves out there. I'm just going to make my screen bigger so that I'm not squinting at my own screen. People have become really aware that they are probably spending 80% of their time online, on social media, especially business owners, and they're creating content. Think about this. Are you spending 80% of your week putting your best content, your best work out there on social media, and then noticing in your results that there might be more effective, more efficient ways, to market your business online? And in this context, I want to specifically say we have the work that we can put out there offline, the way that we can be visible offline. And we've also got the work we put out there online. And when I talk about the online space, there's kind of two areas to that. There's the social media online, and then there's online. It could be your website, it could be YouTube, could be here on Clubhouse. So I want to make a distinction between the two. And the reason that I distinguish between those two is specifically for YouTube and Google are one of the same. As a business owner, when you put your best content out there on a platform like YouTube, number one, it's a video. So your audience gets a sense of who you are, what you're about. Number two, it helps to build your business. Number three, it helps for your credibility. But most importantly, it's a way for you to be visible in a way that if somebody is going into Google search engine and typing for, help in an area of your expertise, they have got more likelihood of finding you. So it's attached to the search engine and definitely worth being a part of. Now, just to give you some context of the kinds of things where people have been found on Google, I'll give you the wide kind of breadth and depth of some of my business colleagues and also some of the things that my clients do. So we're talking about things from classic coaching, it could be classic life coaching. I've got clients, I've got a particular client at the moment who she works with helping people find their values, their true values, and doing it in a way that it's kind of soul-led. We've got, I had a client who was into forest bathing and grounding. So grounding is where you literally put your bare feet on the ground, even in the UK, yes, even in the winter, and just connect with the earth. It's a really good way of centering our energy. And a lot of women love doing it because they feel grounded, as the term is. And forest bathing is where you basically spend anything between 2-4 hours being guided by forest bathing guides, but it's really good for mental health, well-being, resetting yourself if you've got a particularly challenging or stressful job. I have had clients, I had one that was an angel card reader, one that reads tarot, people that help with trauma, people that help with abuse, people that help with relationships. We've got Ian down in the audience there who helps you to sort your tech crap out. So for those of you that get sick and tired of doing things on a repetitive nature, and I can vouch for this because I've used Ian a number of times, you can go to Ian and say, oh my gosh, this is driving me nuts. And Ian, before you've even kind of got the sentence out of your mouth, normally has a, like a solution. And at times, especially for me, because I'm probably a bit like silly with things sometimes, he's like, you can do this thing, you can do this thing, you can do this thing. We've also got Celeste in the audience, who's the Empress of trademark and intellectual property. She's really great with that kind of stuff as well. And with the work that Celeste does, if you're a business owner who's worried about putting your stuff out there on social media or online, and you're worried that somebody's going to steal or take your property, she's definitely worth speaking to find out the best way to protect your intellectual property. And I happen to know that she can do that in the UK, European countries, the USA and Canada. She can help with that as long as your work is registrable, but she helps with all of that. So you can see there's like quite a wide variety of different things that we put out there. And I would say this topic of conversation is definitely for you if you felt at some point that social media has somehow affected your mental health. If you've ever felt a strong resistance to putting yourself out there, a really strong resistance, some of the people that come to work with me feel that they've got an issue around visibility when actually the issue is specifically on social media. That's probably another topic for another time. If you would describe yourself as an influencer, maybe you've got a large following, but this isn't reflected on your profit and loss scheme. I speak to a lot of people who are influencers on, say, Instagram. You look at their profiles, there's like 14,000 people that follow them. But then they're like, but how do I get people to buy my stuff, work with me, pay me? So if you see that you're an influencer, and this can count on places like YouTube, you can have a big audience, or, even Facebook and LinkedIn, but find that it's not reflected in your cash flow, your bank account, or your profit and loss statements. The other people that I'm coming across, and do identify yourself in these areas if you do, and if you don't, that's fine too. I'm coming through a huge number of people who really live life through their intuition. So they have their business or they're an employed professional, but they're highly intuitive, highly tuned in. And if you know either deep down or it's your intuition that's telling you, or you've got that feeling in your gut that your best and your most ideal clients don't hang around on Instagram, don't hang around on Facebook, don't hang around on LinkedIn, then I think you'll be interested in this topic. I've heard people say, I've got to really gear myself up to get out there online. Sometimes they're like, I need to get dressed or changed. Well, actually, getting dressed is fine. Naked video in some schools is fine, but, we're not encouraging or discouraging that. But some people feel they have to have their hair done, makeup on, wear certain clothes, look a certain way. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's not true. It's simply not true. I had a client call just before this, and she was sharing some nuggets, and I just remained quiet. And I said to her afterwards, please clip this, please clip what you've just said there, because it's so useful. And the first thing she went to was, but I haven't got my smart clothes on. Well, when you're coming from your work desk, no one's expecting you to be kind of all suited and booted up. So I think that's really, really important. So these are some of the things that come up. If you felt like you've had to gear yourself up to get out there. The other thing that I've heard that I find slightly disturbing, that people feel forced to do this, but they felt like the only way to get somebody's attention is by having to confess or having to hide their income, their sexuality, marital status, gender identity, skin color, any of those things. Not on my watch. You can go out there, put yourself out there and be visible regardless of any of those and all of those. One that I saw a lot of in the pandemic, people wading into inadvertent online arguments, and it's your post. you've posted and shared something, maybe it's been a life experience, and someone's decided to come on and tell you that you're talking utter rubbish, it's not true, it doesn't make any sense. And last week in the room, which I didn't record, but last week in the room, somebody shared how they've literally been like cast out of the village because some of the things that they believe to be true and have experienced, other people don't recognize. So rather than give them the platform just to voice their experiences, thought the easiest way is to dumb them down or chuck them out. Again, not on my watch. Sometimes people say, I just find it overwhelming. I spend all day commenting on things, on a post, or sometimes I spend all day trying to avoid commenting on a post or something. The saddest piece for me is when people feel that they have to justify their responses because they don't want it to affect their business. I've had a lot of people say, but I've got a business, I need to be on social media. Again, not true. And you might have been told to. Again, I've spoken to a lot of people that said, no, my coach told me that I have to be on social media, or my coach has told me to be a disruptor. If somebody is saying this thing, say the opposite. So you've disagreed with them. And overarching all of that, people are starting to recognize that they genuinely do great work in the world, do good stuff in the world. They want to put themselves out in the world. They don't want to make people feel bad about themselves by being online. And they don't want to make people feel bad about themselves so they can flog them something, and I know that there's still people teaching others to do that, but that's not the case at all. So I'm going to pause there for a minute because there were like, I don't know, maybe 10 things. And the thing that I do want to say is I'm not here saying social media is bad. I'm not saying avoid it. I'm not saying any of that. But what I came to realise and kind of had to own up to myself in just October last year was, what? I actually enjoy being on social media. I love being on social media. When I looked at the people that I could really help the most and really serve, and looked at how they found me, how they connected with me, how they came to me, a lot of it wasn't actually through social media. I did a gig, which I'll keep confidential, the name of the organisation, on Monday. I spoke to them. I'll be running a workshop specifically for, their employees, let's just say. And all of that came about because I decided to go and attend a talk, not a networking event, didn't post on social media, didn't do a video about it. I decided to go to a networking event. So I got a bit geeky. Cass in the audience will like this because she's all about processes and numbers and stuff like that. I actually did some calculations. I worked out how much I spent going to the talk, so actually buying the ticket for the talk, how much I spent on, I decided to get an Uber there and back. I'm in London in the UK. So how much I spent on the Uber there and the Uber back. And I got there a bit early, so I got myself something to eat and drink, and then went up to the room. And all I did was listen to someone speak, spoke to a few people around me, and I got booked to do 2 pieces of work. So when I worked out the return on investment of that, and the fact that, let's face it, from start to finish, it's probably like 4 hours of my time leaving home, going there, listening to the talk, networking, going back home. I worked it out to be, are you ready for this? And Cass in the audience might be like, what? Did you work that out right? 2,800% return on investment. 2,800% return on investment. So much so that I thought I'd miscalculated it. So I actually went to Google to make sure that I was calculating this. And the reason that I share this with you is this was an experiment for me that I was quietly doing behind the scenes after my 3-day event in September. And already it's returned that much from October 21 to today, and once the other person who has engaged me has actually paid their invoice, that 2,800% return on investment will actually go up. And I'll keep tabs on that. But here's the reason I share this. For those of you who are business owners, for those of you that want to put your work out there to a wider audience, I don't want you to be seduced by thinking that you have to be on social media if you don't want to. There are other ways. There always has been. And there are still ways to work with one-to-many. You can still work online and not be on social media. I could bore you with case studies of companies, both in the UK and the US, who have already done this. Some of you might know the UK-based company Lush that does all the kind of body creams and things like that. They actually took a conscious decision to withdraw from all social media. I think it was 2017, might have that date wrong, but they withdrew from social media and their profits have never been better. For those of you that are fans of Apple, take a look at Apple's account on Twitter. It might surprise you. It might surprise you. So that being said, anything that I've just said, Cass, I don't know if you want to share anything, whether that resonated with you. I would love to hear from you. If any of you have got questions, even if the questions are, you know, or comments or stories to share, even if the questions are like, but I do this, how on earth would I make that work? It doesn't make sense. Or no, I like being on social media and here's why I love it. Or I don't and here's why I loathe it. I would love to hear from you. All you need to do is raise a hand and we'll pull you up onto the stage, and we'd love to hear your stories and insights too. So I'm going to pause for a second. Over to you, Cass.
Thank you, Jenny. You always share so many nuggets and words of wisdom. I love it. And I see we have some more people here. So hello to all of you who have been tuning in. I'll go ahead and repeat what I do for those of you who are just tuning in during the time Jenny was speaking. But my name is Cassandra Austin McDonald. I'm a self-empowerment coach, and I work with ambitious women to reclaim their personal power and womanhood so that they are winning and thriving and loving life. And so Jenny spoke a lot about visibility in your online your presence as a business owner. But I like to talk a lot about the personal impacts. And I know we have a gentleman here, Ian. But I always talk about the woman behind it all. That's part of the work that I do. And really making sure that we as women are taking care of ourselves, loving on ourselves, and really empowering ourselves behind all the roles that we have. Some of you may be a business owner, but you also may be a wife and a mother and a friend and a sibling, and you have all these multiple roles in your life. And for me personally, I found social media to have some impacts in my relationships, because as a business owner, I almost have like this public persona, if you will, this professional persona, where if I'm promoting something or I'm marketing something and I post about it, or I have, you know, branded photos and I'm posting things, it's affected my relationships in a way where it's almost like I'm now no longer allowed to be human, because what they see online, I may be marketing for a masterclass or a program or what have you, and they have taken that in terms of, well, she must be good or everything must be good, so that when I've been in spaces where I needed space held for me in real life, you know, I have challenges at times when it comes to my own mental health and well-being, just like anyone else does. And so I found myself in spaces where it was almost like people in my life were so fixated on what they were seeing online that it was hard for them to really just see me as the human, the woman, the person. And so that was one of the struggles I've had with social media in terms of like Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And I'm still on there, but I'm just transparently sharing with you all some challenges that I've experienced. And the reason I'm sharing this is because real life connections are a big value for me in my life. And even the women that I work with, a lot of my clients, they have a lot of success, whether if it's in their business or they're still in corporate, but they have high level positions, but they're also a mom, a wife, or they're aspiring to have a partner. And they are having this impact in their relationships. And relationships, I believe, is so key and important to our well-being. And the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our life. And so what I'm finding happening is people are trading real life connections for like these counterfeit connections. They're on social media and they're counting an interaction on a post, or them liking something, or them saying something online counting as a connection. And I actually disagree that that's not a real connection. That's interaction, but it's not connection. To me, connection is more private, intimate. It's more of behind the scenes. Maybe you take it to Messenger, or maybe you hop on a Zoom chat with someone. And if this is someone in your personal life, they should have your phone number. You should be having real life conversations with people. However, I've noticed a lot of people are trading in those real life connections for these surface level connections, if you will, online, and it's impacting relationships in a deep, profound way. A lot of people are battling with loneliness right now. A lot of people are battling with feeling like they don't have those deeper connected relationships like they desire. People are feeling like they have to, I call it the pressure of perfection. They always have to be on. I just talked about this on a live stream yesterday, where there's this pressure, especially as women of color, where we always have to be on, we always have to be strong, we always have to show that we've got it all together. And what happens is behind the scenes, that can have a profound effect on your well-being. And as you as a woman, because we are still human, we have so many facets of ourselves. Our professional persona is just one category of who we are. I like to think about the pie. You know, we have our business and professional lives, and we have our relationships, and we have our career and hobbies, and we have our faith, and our, you know, all these different categories that make up the summation of what we would consider a quality life. However, if you have this pressure of perfection that you always have to be on, then my question to you would be, when do you get to be off? When do you get to, as I like to say, take off the Superwoman cape, or for you, Ian, the Superman cape, put it off to the side and just be. And I like to use this analogy. When we are, for instance, using our phone, right? At some point, if you don't plug that thing in, it is going to die. If you do not plug in your computer or your laptop after so many hours of use, the battery is going to die. If you leave the lights on in your home for too long, the electricity bill is going to run up. And what I find is people are plugged into social media more than they are plugged into themselves and real life connections, and it's draining. I've experienced it myself. In fact, one of the triggers for me to know if I need to back away is if I find myself mindlessly scrolling online as a form of a distraction. When I find myself doing that, I know I'm trying to distract myself from something. And I know that's a call for me to unplug and to plug in within me and do some self-care, have some real connections. And it could be so easy because we have our phones at our fingertips. You know, we literally can click a button and there is everything. And the next point I want to make is that what happens is we have this state of constant consumption. Even if you're going online intentionally, you might not be mindlessly scrolling, but you're entering into the groups or the spaces that you're in to network and to connect with people for business building and opportunities. You can still unconsciously have this constant consumption happening. And what's happening with the women I'm working with is they're comparing themselves, their businesses, their lives to other people. And they're starting to have this narrative that they're not enough. In fact, I had a client I was working with last year. She is a super successful businesswoman. She's probably going to hit a 7-figure year this year. And when we were working together, she couldn't even celebrate her own successes. She couldn't even celebrate the fact that she had built this amazing multiple 6-figure business as a wife and a mom of 2 young children under the age of 10. And she was able to quit her job and she was doing this work. And behind the scenes, she was frustrated. She was having conflict in her relationships with her loved ones, her family, and she couldn't even celebrate herself for the success she built because she was online comparing her life, her business, and what have you to other people in her industry. And it was starting to create imposter syndrome. She was starting to feel like she wasn't good enough. She was starting to feel like she wouldn't be successful unless she hit higher numbers. And it started to turn into almost like that carrot dangling in front of you where, you know, you're trying to catch it and someone moves it out even further, like, oh, just kidding, not yet. And it was really sending her into a place where she was not in her empowered self at all. And part of the work that I do is I like to help women step from their disempowered selves, mind, body, spirit, into their empowered selves. And she came to work with me, and after 2 months of slowing down to speed up later, which is what I called it, and really just pulling back, pouring into herself, loving on herself, implementing the self-care strategies that I was giving to her, and changing some communication styles and things like that in her home, she started to notice an immediate shift. And she, in fact, one of the businesses she was comparing herself to, they ended up reaching out to her for a collaboration. But I say all that to say, social media is almost like the gift and the curse. And for me personally, you know, like I shared previously, I am extremely grateful for the connections I've made. Jenny being one of them. I've connected with so many amazing women and people online. However, I have also experienced the negative effects where I've literally been in tears. Even Jenny could attest to this, where I said, I can't do it anymore because I constantly found myself in this space of feeling like I was having these moments of feeling drained, having these moments of feeling like I had the pressure to be on all the time. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. And so what I started to do is I really started to just pull back and come up with different ways. I've been working with Miss Jenny Kovacs, the queen of being seen on this, which is why I love what she's sharing, but really just pulling back, slowing down myself, and coming up with other strategies that I can attract my ideal clients and the people that I believe I've been called to serve. And the reason that I am so passionate about doing this now versus later is because I am in a season of my journey where I'm more about the long game. And so I'm thinking about what is the impacts of this constant consumption and not having real life connections and this pressure of perfection always having to be on. What's the long-term effects of that? I'm always thinking about down the line, like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, are we going to see studies about this? Are we going to hear information about the detriment of this? And so because that is like Jenny was talking about before, this intuitive nature of myself, those are thoughts I've been having. I'm like, okay, so what are other strategies I can start putting into place where I feel like I don't necessarily have to quote unquote live on social media to do business, but I can be a bit more strategic while also honoring myself and caring for the woman behind it all, as I often say. So I feel like I just said a whole mouthful there. So I'm going to hand it back over to Jenny, and then would love to hear from anybody in the audience if you have questions or just anything you want to share.
Thanks, Cass. Yeah, there were a lot of great nuggets in there. And whilst I'm kind of just inviting questions or thoughts or experiences, feel free to, if you grab a link where people can find out more about you, maybe they want to have a chat with you about how your work could help with their impact or whatever you feel is great. We'll pin that up on the top. At the top of the screen, you'll see that I've pinned, it's a freebie, so it's a Make Me Visible manual. And this manual came from people kind of assessing the cost for them to continue doing something that they might not have been happy with. And let me give you some specific examples. So the cost of feeling upset and thinking, I don't want to post stuff online, I don't want family, I don't want ex-work colleagues, fill in the gap. I don't want fill in the gap to see my work and put it out there to the point where you're feeling, really, really, resistant, I guess, to putting your work out there or sharing it. Other costs that people have had, so many people have talked about, well, I've taken a Facebook break. I've watched as very, very well known and some, I say success, but it's successful, whatever it means to you. But where people will look from the outside in, see somebody's life and think they're doing a seemingly great job. And with that job, they have like a crisis of confidence that happens underneath. There are reasons for this. And here's what I discovered in my time during the pandemic. I actually thought at the beginning of the pandemic that I was going to lose my business. So I kind of battened down the hatches in May 2020 and prepared for the rather, for me, it felt kind of embarrassing position of saying, look, I was working with these really juicy clients, and because of the pandemic, they've put a pause on, and I'm going to have to close my business. But in fact, what happened was, as I leaned into the 5 pillars of visibility, which is known as my visibility activator system or the visibility acceleration program, depending on which level you jump on, what I realized was that a lot of the underlying principles of these pillars still worked even during the pandemic, which I didn't expect. I thought some of it would change, maybe I would have to pivot and all of that kind of stuff. And what was the I guess the foundation of that, because quite often, yes, I'll have people that will want to work with me privately and go through my program, but sometimes people are like, I'm already in another program or I'm doing this thing. I then honed into 3 key elements, which some of you may have heard me talk about before: the ABC, being able to speak to your audience in a way that they hear you, online or offline. Having the kind of business that has you not only building your business, and maybe for some of you building your audience, and that's not necessarily just in numbers. Building your audience could mean building your audience of people that actually want to hear from you, get what you're about, and you'll know that you might be slightly off kilter if you ever heard yourself saying, I've got people in my group, or I've got people on my list, but I don't think they're the right people. I probably need to start again. Often you don't. It's just a case of tweaking that messaging. And then the other point of credibility, the truth of the matter is, what I have seen on social media over the years is people will share their wins, and I'm all for encouraging people to share their wins. Sometimes they'll share stuff about their clients. And what I noticed when I did an assessment of, I looked at 80% of my time being spent on doing one particular thing to get a 20% return on investment, as opposed to, it wouldn't have even been a 1% of my time to get a 2,800% return on investment. That got my attention. And what I found was that was because I was able to display levels of credibility that didn't sound like, oh, I've just had my first, 5-figure month, or hey, I've just hit 6 figures, or any of that, or hey, my client's just done this. In fact, while we've been on here, one of my clients has messaged me because they wanted to get visible in a way that sold. And they said, I've just got my first sale and they've paid in full and I'm so excited. And I sent the kind of obligatory, woohoo, that's really great. And then after this call, I'll kind of go and really pat them on the back and all of that kind of stuff. I want you to be visible in a way that has the people that you want to work with really knowing who you are, what you're about, and paying attention. Because I know for sure that when that doesn't happen, the cost of that is that you don't feel like you found your purpose. You don't feel like you've maybe found my American mentor used to say your dime, you haven't found that one, thing or things that you feel you can really get behind, because it still feels risky because there's sometimes clients, sometimes not, or perhaps no clients, The other cost to this is how it feels. This thing about, I put a post out and nobody liked it, or not enough people in the room, or, not enough likes. I run these clubhouse rooms, and sometimes they're well attended and sometimes they're not. I needed to reconcile with myself that it was okay to do it regardless, because I still have other ways I can market myself. I can be visible, and I think visibility is definitely the glue between sales and marketing. It's what makes that work. So what I've pinned at the top there is the Make Me Visible guide. As I say, it's a free guide, and you'll answer a few questions for yourself as you go through. Now, if that's all you do with that, you will still be able to identify areas where perhaps you're like, this is an area that I'm not keen on. This is an area where I feel like hiding. This is an area where I excel. But it gives you your own kind of manual of what works best for you. Even as a visibility specialist, it's not my job to tell you, do this, do that in this way. So if once you've done the Make Me Visible manual, you feel that you want to, there is an offer of a free 30-minute call with me, not with someone else on a team or anything else like that, with me, so that we can look at what your best next course of action is for you to be visible. Really, really, really important that you know this for yourself, and you're not being swayed by, you have to do this, it's fashionable to do that. You know, one example right now is TikTok. Lots of people are having lots of success on TikTok. Lots of people are having a gazillion million followers on TikTok. But then they're like, but how can I monetize it? I keep getting people that pick my brains. No one really understands what I do. People want, you know, don't want to work with me, or it's fun, but it takes a lot of time to make them. So that's all about the Make Me Visible manual. If anyone's got any questions for Cass or I'd really love to hear them. If you don't want to come up to the stage, or you're at work or in a noisy place, feel free to back channel me. That's a little paper aeroplane at the bottom. Just type in your question there, and I'll answer it, and I can answer it anonymously unless you say, you know, in fact, I will answer it anonymously unless you say it's okay for me to share. And in the meantime, I'm going to go back to Cass. So Cass, if you've got a link that you want somebody to go to or do anything, and if you've got that, if you copy it on your phone, and at the top, and this I guess is useful for anyone else in the room who's moderating or running a room and you want to pin a link, if you hit the 3 dots, it will tell you at the top, edit the pinned link, and then you just paste it on there. If you haven't got that, if you want to send it to me through either the back channel or Messenger, and I'll pin it up there for you. Okay, so good old Cass the second. I do like speaking to Cass. Hi.
So I just pinned my 2022 Elevate Your Standards guide. This is a free resource for you to really just take time to evaluate how the last year went for you, but how you would desire this year to go for you. And so there are some journal prompts, but there's also kind of like on a scale from 1 to 10 assessment on there. I love using that because it really helps to make things real. Sometimes we may have an inkling that something doesn't feel right. Maybe it's in your relationship, maybe it's with a loved one, maybe it's just in your self-care in general, whatever you may find, but it stays as a lingering thought. I love doing things on a scale from 1 to 10 because now you have something more quantifiable to look at to say, you know what, I just said that I feel like I'm at a 4 and not at a 8, 9, or 10 in this area. So then the next question would be, well, what do you need to do to pull it up? And so I love doing those types of assessments for myself and my clients because it really helps to hone in on how can we pull up these different categories in your life and really have the type of life where you feel like it's more of, I don't like to use the word balance because I feel like balance is bogus. We're always gonna drop the ball, you know, that's life, right? But really just in harmony, you know, how can you make your life more harmonious and feel more fulfilling? You know, I was sharing yesterday in a post, I said, you know, oftentimes our gas tank is full, our closets are full, our contacts list is full, our calendar is full, but are you full? The woman, the man, even Ian, are you fulfilled? And oftentimes we get so caught up in the hustle and the grind and the building and the making sure everybody else is okay. I'm really wanting to make sure that the person behind it all, woman or man, whoever's listening, that you're making sure you're taking care of yourself too, and that you're honoring your needs, your desires, filling your cup, overflowing. And so this is a guide to really support you with that. And then inside of the guide, you will see that there's an opportunity to connect with me in some different ways. And so I have a link in there where you can join my free Facebook group, which is interesting because this whole talk about social media and the work I'm doing with Jenny, I have no clue where I'm going to be headed in the future. I may be on Mighty Networks or something. However, for now, that is a free support group that I have. And then also a link to connect with me for a complimentary breakthrough call. And I want to note, before we invite Cass, we have another Cass here to ask a question or to share. I actually no longer do free strategy calls. And so this is actually a special bonus for those who download this guide only. It's not something I offer anymore. I used to do free breakthrough calls. I do not offer it anymore, only to those who have this guide and you feel like you would like some support and guidance for your next best steps to take after you've completed it. But for those who are in the general public, if you go to my website, if you click on any links, you're going to see that it does cost to book a discovery call with me. And so definitely take advantage of that, because I do not offer that publicly anymore. And so if that's something you're interested in, you can download that guide and go through the prompts, do some self-assessment, see where you're at, and I'd love to connect with you.
Thanks, Cassandra, that you're speaking. I'm very aware that we're going to close the room. So what I want to do is invite Cass to the stage. I've spoken to the other Cass quite a few times, Cass Johnson.
I just wanted to say that I was happy to catch some of the conversation at least, because I've been listening to this room over the last few weeks. But I'm not a person who has actually embraced social media as such. I'm not interested in the high numbers of followers, because I just don't know if we would relate. Can we connect? And that's all to do with how I move forward in my business. And I want that connection with people, both in business and in personal. Because my strapline is La Dolce Vita, which is the good life. And I don't see you having a good life part-time away from business and just at home. That's just wasting half of your life, if not more. So I see social media like going to a club, possibly, and you're sat in a dark corner watching everything that's going on, but you're not actually enjoying it. The scrolling, the clicking likes just because someone says that they like it. It's just not your type of club. You've got no one who you're relating to, but everyone's telling you that this is the club to be at. No, if you're not in it, then you shouldn't be on all the different platforms. And I do believe that you should give yourself time and grace in order to get used to and customize yourself to one platform before trying to incorporate and be like live and be the it person on everything. Unless you are into social media, that is your actual business, and you need to know what's going on each platform. Why would you do that yourself? You're burning yourself out before you even started. And yeah, I guess that relates to my policies and procedures. But yeah, well done you, Jenny, for your talk that's turned into a business idea. That's me, Cass, to the far right, not in the middle. And I love that you spelled your name exactly the same. So that's complete confusion there.
I'm laughing at the two Casses in their names. Thank you for sharing that. I love that analogy about the club piece. You know, I've got a book right in front of me that's like filled with perceptions that people have on themselves based on social media. And I was just like, but why judge, you know, the inside of your life by the outside of somebody else's life and then decide, oh, I'm not good enough, you know? Exactly that. you know, and with it, as with everything, these things start with good intention, but I think a lot of it has turned into a numbers game, and it's just not true. And I just want to encourage anyone who's worried about or thinking that that is the only route, just to reassure them it really is not. You know, having that genuine connection with somebody makes such a difference. So yeah, I love so much of what you shared there, Cass. Thank you for coming up and sharing. So we're going to get ready to close the room, but before I do, other Cass, have you got anything else you wanted to share?
Yes, I just wanted to say I love the analogy that you used when you were describing that. It was like I could really mentally visualize that atmosphere, and it really does put things into perspective about this virtual space of like, wow, if this is not in alignment with who I am and what I'm about, then why keep going? And so I love that you shared that. It kind of clicked for me, so thank you.
It's
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cass. Has anyone else got anything they want to add before we close the room down? I mean, I want to say thank you for being here today. I created a post first thing this morning before the first Clubhouse room that I did at 8:30, and I didn't post it. So I need to get better at making these visible and telling more people about the rooms. But I always love the conversations that we all have in here. Any more? Okay, so I am on YouTube as well, and I've got some nuggets on YouTube if you're kind of feeling like, oh, I just want to put myself out there, maybe doing more more than one thing or that kind of stuff. Check it out. But until that, there will be another room next week. I'm not sure if it's at the same time or not, so just double check on my profile, on the bottom of my profile, or double check in the Visibility Club, which is the Visibly Confident Club, if I can get my teeth in right. Thank you for being here. I hope I'm following you all. I'm sure I am. And I will see you in the next room. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now.